Hi everyone, welcome to video number 1 of what I hope will be many videos. I have elected not to be on camera for the time being as the relationship just ended 2 weeks ago. I don't want to run the risk of my ex stumbling across this channel, recognizing my thumbnail. It would just become a whole big thing and it would just be a lot less stressful to just do it this way. Maybe down the road I'll film myself, but for right now it'll be audio only. I might throw up a couple of images, sort of like a PowerPoint, but I won't appear on camera right now. I am starting this channel because I hope I can help someone who feels as lost as I felt when I was first discovering what was going on. I am in no way a professional or an expert. I want to make that clear. I simply had a very intense experience. I did a tremendous amount of research, and I felt very alone, and I'm thankful that I found a small community on YouTube of people who had similar experiences, either in a clinical setting or personal setting. I will list the links below of the people that really helped me, and I'll give them credit. I experienced such abnormal behavior, and I'm sure you did too. That's why you found this video, and you're trying to make sense of what happened. I was not content just saying, okay, this guy's a jerk, whatever, I'm done. I knew it was something more than that, and I had to figure out what it was. I read every psychology book I could find. I watched every video I can find. I spoke to 3 different therapists trying to find answers. Am I crazy or am I dealing with crazy? I managed to find a copy of the DSM, which stands for the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. It's essentially the Bible that mental health professionals use to diagnose disorders. I stumbled across sociopathy, and from that I discovered the cluster B personality types. The DSM breaks down personality disorders into 3 different clusters, A, B, and C. You have A, the paranoid, schizoid, schizophrenia types. The other end are the avoidant, dependent OCD types. In the middle, you have the antisocial types, sociopathy, borderline, histrionic, and narcissism. They're very erratic behaviors, dramatic, emotional. They cause many interpersonal relationship problems. They begin to develop in pre-adolescence and continue. Generally, they get worse with age. These 4 disorders are related to each other, very similar, but they have their own set of traits. They do tend to overlap. Narcissism is characterized by 9 traits. You need to exhibit 5 of them to be diagnosed. Before I list the 9 traits, I just want to say that narcissism is a term that tends to get thrown around a lot. Narcissism and the actual disorder are 2 very different things. You can be a narcissist and not have NPD. You can take a ton of photos of yourself. You can be super vain and really into yourself, really into the way you look, but you can still have empathy and you can still understand other people. When it becomes pathological, as Ross Rosenberg describes, it becomes to negatively affect other people, and that's when it becomes a problem. I will down the road do a whole video on healthy narcissism, which in a nutshell is genuine self-esteem. That's when you're happy and positive. Narcissists do not like themselves. They create this false person, which is really the core of the disorder. When you have the actual disorder, you lack positive qualities, so just understand the difference between the 2. So what is NPD? It's a disorder which affects 1 to 6% of the population. They generally do not seek therapy, so the numbers can be a little off. It affects 50 to 75% of men. Generally, you are excessively preoccupied with yourself. You have these grandiose goals with fantasy and power and vanity. You're unable to feel empathy for others. You can't see the pain that your behavior is causing. It's very, very destructive. These people need constant praise, constant admiration. They need to be mentally stimulated at all times. They get very bored easily. They have an idea of their fantasy partner, which may be well above the kind of person that they deserve or could even handle. They have this degree of selfishness that's just unbelievable. They're super entitled, very dramatic. They have crazy mood swings. They have very, very unrealistic expectations. They feel super entitled to special treatments. The list goes on. There's a tactic known as splitting, which most cluster B types exhibit. where a person or a thing or anything is either good or bad. It's never pros and cons of both things in one subject. It's, I mean, I don't know, I don't have any examples right now, but it's just, dealing with it is just exhausting. Anyway, here are the 9 traits which are listed in the DSM. There's a grandiose sense of self-importance, preoccupied by unrealistic fantasies of success, power, beauty, and ideal love, believes they are special and unique and can only be understood by special people, requires excess admiration and attention, has a sense of entitlement, interpersonally exploitive, they take advantage of others, they lack empathy and cannot recognize the feelings of others, they envy others and believe other people envy them. They're extremely arrogant. As I said, you need to meet 5 out of these 9 traits in order to meet the requirements for diagnosis. In full-blown NPD, a person generally has all of them. I apologize for the sounds. It's pouring outside. The rain is super loud. I can't seem to get away from it. So please just try your best to tune it out. Now, in order to understand what NPD is, we have to understand what it isn't. It's a common misconception that the person has a high self-esteem and confidence, and that is completely in love with themselves, and they think they're the greatest, etc., etc. It's the total opposite. A person with a disorder actually doesn't like who they are. They're in love with their own reflection and how the world sees them. They're in love with a false projected image of themselves. Narcissism is a coping mechanism. It's so the person can cope with a harsh reality that they perceive. As with other cluster B personality disorders, it stems from a traumatic and psychologically abusive childhood. There are generally 2 ways this disorder is formed. One way is when the parents are completely overbearing and smothering. They completely idealize the child and think the child is the greatest for simply being, with no basis in reality or by their accomplishments. As a result, the child grows up with this inflated and unrealistic view of themselves. The other way is the total opposite end of the parenting spectrum. The child grows up feeling very ignored and sad and hated. They have so many repressed emotions of sadness and anger, they get pushed deep down, and they create a false self to show to the world, to protect them. The child who grows up in either type of household will end up feeling very empty on the inside, regardless of what they portray to the outside world. A narcissist cannot generate self-esteem from the inside. They need attention from the outside in order to feel any form of self-worth. This attention that they crave is known as narcissistic supply. As an adult, their main focus is gaining this supply. Their entire life is concentrated on feeding the false self with attention and admiration. Please stay tuned for my next video. I will be going deeper and more in-depthly into narcissistic supply. I'll be discussing narcissistic injury, the grandiosity gap, and the grandiosity hangover. In order to really understand my next series of videos, you'll really need to understand those 4 words. I'll be throwing them around a lot.